Welcome back. It's something we do all day long. No doubt you're doing it right now. Sitting. It's as normal as breathing. Well, actually, no, it's not. And it seems it could be the most dangerous thing you do in your day. Latest research says sitting is as bad as smoking. It sounds dramatic, and it is, but the research is compelling, linking our sedentary lifestyles to diabetes, cardiovascular disease, even cancer. Fact is, sitting is killing us. The good news, there's a simple solution, and as Michael Usher finds out, it could well save your life.
What are some of the things that you could actually use to develop the characters that you have in your stories?
Mrs. Johnston's classroom is one of a kind. Her grade 6 students are part of an experiment that will hopefully make them smarter and live longer. Mont Albert Primary School in Melbourne has the world's first classroom where students choose to sit or stand with desks that can be raised or lowered. Principal Sharon Saitlik says the results have surprised and delighted her, with students choosing to stand most of the time.
Some students, boys in particular, can get a little bit agitated sitting in the same spot. We know through research in boys' education from year 1 onwards that they find it very, very difficult to sit down on the floor or to sit for long periods of time. They've now got the opportunity to stand or sit as it works for them.
If you could do this in every classroom in your school, would you?
Absolutely.
For the past year, these students have been part of a groundbreaking research study undertaken by Dr. David Dunstan from the Baker IDI Heart and Diabetes Institute in Melbourne. These students will hopefully lead the way in changing increasingly lazy lifestyles where we've stopped moving and now sit down longer than we sleep. David Dunstan says we've got our backsides parked on a couch, seat or chair for 9.4 hours per day, and on average, sleep just 7.3 hours.
We're now starting to see some pretty strong evidence linking high amounts of sitting to type 2 diabetes, heart disease, overweight and obesity, some cancers, and of course an increased risk of early death.
My wake-up call was when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
Immobility had wrecked Donna Stolzenberg's health. Her life became almost completely sedentary.
The specialist that I saw said to me that I had about 5 years before I'd be on dialysis, and I had probably 10 years left if I didn't change what I was doing. That was it, 10 years left before I was going to die.
With 3 sons under 10 at home, Donna was 40, weighed 118 kilograms and was on course for a very early death.
I sat from the time I got up, I'd sit down and have breakfast, and then I'd sit down in the car on the way to work, and then I'd sit down at my desk. Find what your tax file number is today, but I'll need to... And then I would sit in the car on the way home, sitting with the kids, reading them a story, just, yeah, sitting down watching television. And I just didn't know any better.
Sitting down was killing you?
Literally, yeah, sitting down was killing me. Sitting down and the diet I could change and did. The sitting part, that took a bit longer to come in, but when I realised that I needed both, that's when I started to make the changes there to make sure that I was doing everything that I possibly could to prolong my life for as long as I possibly could.
Faced with her own mortality, Donna took charge. She shed weight, dropping to 80 kilograms. And with husband Glenn, overhauled their lifestyle, getting off the couch for good. But the really big change was in the office. Donna works at the Australian Taxation Office call centre in Melbourne, which is now actively making sure its employees move during their shift and break away from their screens and seats.
At work, we have a program that sends a message on your computer that you've been sitting too long, and it will give you some exercises to do. So we'll go for a walk, we'll look out the window, we'll, wander around, just get moving again, and that happens about every hour.
We're not even talking about constant vigorous exercise here, just moving around a little each day.
Have we underestimated just minor movement for good health?
Yep, in fact it's essentially been engineered out of our lives. Even over the last few decades we've seen an environment that has become highly conducive to prolonged periods of sitting.
Now, with me as guinea pig, Professor Dunstan and his team are going to measure how sitting for too long affects our health.
And so that's going to measure your activity. So when you're moving...
Glucose levels, blood pressure, energy levels and motion sensors will keep track of the body's function when I'm sitting and standing.
I'm well and truly plugged in.
You are plugged in.
My first 2.5 hours of the test are spent sitting down, motionless, at a screen, similar to a desk job. Then, after lunch, I'm standing and doing some light walking for another 2.5 hours.
So, Michael, what you're doing now is we've set the treadmill at 3.2 kilometres per hour to sort of simulate walking at a light pace around the office, for example.
It seems such a basic message, to get moving. But it's one that's been lost on an entire generation, and not just in Australia.
There is no more powerful symbol of sitting than this. But where President Abraham Lincoln behind me strikes a very statesman-like pose, there is nothing dignified about our generation's inclination to park our backside in a chair for hours on end. And the truth is, sitting is putting us in an early grave.
A recent study involving 200,000 people surveyed over 3 years found sitting for 11 hours or more per day can increase the risk of death by 40%, compared to those who only sat 4 hours a day or less. As soon as you sit down, the enzymes that help break down fat drop by 90%. Your insulin effectiveness and good cholesterol drops, and your blood pressure rises. Leg muscles switch off and pressure is placed on your neck and spine. Sitting means blood clots are more likely to form in your brain, as well as increasing your chances of obesity, diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And your heart is at risk. People with desk jobs have twice the rate of heart disease than those with active jobs. And colon and breast cancer have been linked to excessive sitting and having a sedentary lifestyle. San Francisco's tech haven, Silicon Valley, is always ahead of its time. And here, office chairs have become a thing of the past. Desks are raised, staff stand, they move. It's encouraged. And leading the charge is entrepreneur and venture capitalist Heidi Roizen.
3 o'clock meeting. Great, thank you.
In her companies, staff aren't tied to their desks and computers. And if you want a meeting with the woman they call the best connected person in Silicon Valley, bring your sneakers.
When you tell people that if you want to have a meeting with me, we're going to have to walk and talk.
Yeah. Generally, they're a little surprised. They'll say, can I have a meeting with you? I want to pitch my company. And you'll say, I don't have any slots available for that, but I do walk my dog every morning, and if you'd like to come walk my dog with me, you can have a slot.
Heidi was once a workaholic executive at Apple, spending 13 hours or more a day sitting down. Then she changed careers and was determined to do something about her weight and her sedentary lifestyle. She works standing up and on the go, and doing so dropped almost 20 kilos.
And what have you noticed about the impacts on your health? How has it helped you?
Look, for any full-time working executive, if you're in meetings 9-10 hours a day, it's hard to get any exercise otherwise. And I probably walk about 1,000 miles a year in meetings. Well, that's probably, most of those miles I wouldn't have walked if I hadn't scheduled a meeting.
And it's not just a fad. It's a sign of any healthy workplace, where bosses want to look after their staff.
I have really made it my personal mission to try and bring movement into the sort of general office workplace environment.
Sarah Robb O'Hagan is the president of upmarket American gym chain Equinox. She says it isn't about exercising once every day, but staying active throughout the day that is most important to maintaining a healthy work life.
We're all told to exercise half an hour a day. Does the message have to change?
There's such a big misperception that if I got my half an hour in, I'm done. And now I did everything I needed to do today. And I think people don't realise that when you take that half an hour and then you sit down for 8 hours, all of the metrics go the wrong way.
back in Melbourne, my results show how crucial basic movement, not even rigorous exercise, is to our health and longevity.
It just shows you that if you're up and moving after meals, for instance, you can really keep that blood sugar levels much lower.
My blood glucose levels responded much better when I was up and about.
This is the energy expenditure, how much energy you're burning.
This is very clear.
What's striking here is that when you are sitting, you virtually have an energy burn that is not too much different to being in a rested state or lying down.
It's not far off
No.
sleeping.
No, it's not far off sleeping.
And not surprisingly, my blood pressure dropped dramatically when I got up and moved around.
So it is not normal for us to be sitting for 9.5 hours every day.
This is not normal, and our body responds accordingly, as you saw from your results there. We need to get people sitting less, moving more often.
It took the fear of death for Donna Stolzenberg to get that message. She's now trying to be a role model for her children and get them off their backsides and away from computer screens.
On weekends, they get screen time, but they've got to match it with outdoor time, with moving time. We are bringing them up with the sense that, your body needs to move. It needs to be active, not just sit down.
Donna's now the self-proclaimed queen of incidental exercise. Lots of small steps that have saved her life.
It's not a case of, everyone jump up and do star jumps every 5 minutes out of your desk. It's just moving. It's just walking. Don't just sit there staring and, freezing in front of the screen. If you sit down for, and you don't get up and move, you're going to leave this earth a lot earlier than what you'd planned to.
Up after the break, the Kiwi